Hello, in the following video we will be creating an image comparison slider for a Liquid Shopify theme. You may also know this as a before and after slider, and they are used in some stores to highlight the benefits of using a product. For example, in a store that sells skincare products, a section like this could be used to highlight how the skin looked like before using the product and how it looks like after using the product. So without further ado, let's get started. For this, I have my Liquid Shopify theme running locally. If you need help doing this, I have a video in the channel where I go step by step on how you can run your theme from your computer. I will leave that in the video description. But going back to this, I will press T to open my theme locally over here in the browser, and then also press E to open the theme editor. Now going back to Visual Studio Code, let's create a section to add the code there. So let's name this Image Comparisons Liquid. And now, let's try to understand how we are going to approach this. For this, I will be using this beer slider library, which you can see there in the logo why it has that name. But what concerns to us is that it let us accomplish exactly what we want, which is creating this slider over here. And we will not need to include any additional dependencies like React or jQuery. We just need to include the library's files and that's it. Now, let's click on this link over here to go to their GitHub page. And from here, scroll to this part where they are showing us how to include the library from the CDN. However, I will just copy this content over here and create the file directly in my assets folder. So let's create beer slider.css and paste this over here and do the same for their JavaScript file. So copy this, open it in a tab, copy its content, and then create beer slider.js and paste this over here. The reason I do it this way is so the files are served from my store's domain, which will use Shopify CDN that is tailored to work the best way possible with our Liquid themes. Plus, having the file there protects you if for some reason that CDN decided to remove that file in the future, or if the CDN itself went down for one reason or the other. Now, going to the section, let's start by creating a schema. So over here, let's do a schema and schema. The name here will be image comparison. For presets, we will add over here a name of image comparison. And now let's start over here adding the settings. The first one will be of type text and it will be a title. So let's just call it title and the ID will be title. Then over here, we will have a setting of type image picker. This will be the before image and the label will be before image. Then over here, we will have a very similar setting. So image picker, the ID will be after image and the label will be after image. And let's save this. Now let's go to the top over here. Let's create a div. And let's give it a class of page width, which is the container class in the theme that I am using over here, which is done depending on the theme you're using. This class over here might change. Now over here, let's do an h2 and let's do section, the settings, a title. Then over here, we'll give this an ID of image comparison and give it the section.id, so the ID is always unique, even if we include more than one of these sections in the same page. Then over here, the class will be beer slider because that is the CSS class that this library uses. And let's give it image comparison slider as well, which is the class that we will use to target it. Then over here, we can start including the images. So let's do section.settings before image. Let's do image URL. Let's give this a width of 1000 and height of 1000, for example. And let's use an image tag over here. We can give this a class of image comparison, the slider English. Next, let's add a div over here with a class of beer reveal. And over here, let's do section.settings.afterimage, and let's copy all of this as it will look exactly like this. So let's save. And now let's see how this section looks like in the admin. So from the theme editor here, if I add a section, look for image comparisons. We'll see over here the section. We get these errors. We will fix those in a moment. But for now, let's just say before and after. And let's select two images. Let's do, for example, this one here. And let's do this one as the after image. Let's save. And we see that the images are not displaying, so let's fix that. And the reason we were having the error is because here we forgot to add class. Now if I save this and go back here and refresh the page, we are going to see both images loading. However, this is not behaving as the before and after slider. The reason for that is because we have not included the CSS and JavaScript files yet. So let's do that. For this, here at the top, I will do beer slider.css, asset URL, style sheet tag. And then over here at the bottom, I will create a script tag. The src will be beer slider.js, asset URL. Let's defer this and let's close the script tag. Next, we have to create another script tag to init the slider. So let's do that here. So over here, let's create a function, init slider, and let's do new beer slider. And over here, I will do document dot get element by ID. And from here, I am going to copy this ID exactly like this and paste it over here. And let's save this. Now let's do window.add event listener DOM content loaded. So when the DOM loads, we are going to init the slider. And also let's add document.add event listener. And let's add Shopify section load and init the slider. So whenever the section loads in the theme editor, whenever we make a change over there, the section will re-render. So after making these changes, let's go to the page over here. Let's refresh. Let's go down here and we see the slider. We see that this is working. You can see that we have the before image and the after image. However, we can improve this a little. So let's start by adding a label to the before image and to the after image so it's obvious which one is which. Fortunately, this library supports this, so I can do data beer label, and this will be equal to before. And then over here, data beer label, this will be equal to after. And over here, you can see that now I have the before and after images. So before it looked like this, and the after image is like this. We could make this even better by making this a setting instead of hard coding the text. So over here, I can do setting of type text. The ID will be before image label, and the label here will be before image label. And for the after image, we will do the same. So I will copy this setting, paste it over here, and just change this word for after and this word for after. We can actually make the default here be before, and here the default be after, which is what most people will be using. So it makes sense to have those as the default. And now over here, let's do section settings dot before image label. And now over here, let's do section settings dot after image label. And save this. And you can see over here that it is looking like it was looking before with after here and before here. But now if I go to the admin, refresh this, so the settings are updated. and then click on image comparison, we can see that we now have these settings here. And if I say before image and after image, we see that they are updated. And if I save and refresh over here, we see the new labels with the updated text. Now let's add styles to improve how this looks like. I will add the styles in this file, but you can create your own styles file and include it over here. I'm just doing it in this file for simplicity. So let's do beer slider, and let's give this a display block, and let's give this a width of 100%. Then let's do beer slider, and let's copy the image class from here, paste it here. To each image, let's give them a width of 100%, height of auto, an object fit of cover, and then over here we can set the aspect ratio. To the images that I selected, the aspect ratio that looks good is 1. However, if we selected 16:9, we will get them to look like this, which is a landscape view. As we don't know exactly what kind of images will be used in this section, we can make the aspect ratio a setting so the merchant can select whichever aspect ratio matches their images best. So let's create a setting over here. Let's make it of type select. The ID will be aspect ratio. The label will be image aspect ratio. Actually, let's do over here image aspect ratio so the label and ID match closely. And now let's create the options. The label will be 16:9 and the value will be the same. We will do the same for 1:1. The value will be 1:1. And let's create 4/3 as well, which is another commonly used aspect ratio. We have to give this a default value, so let's say that the default is 16:9. And now over here, what we will have to do is to copy this ID from here. So let's copy the ID, paste it here, and then copy this class and put it here. The reason we have to use the ID over here for the aspect ratio is because if we have two image comparison sections in the same page, by keeping it in this generic selector, it is targeting both sections at the same time. But if we move it down here, each image comparison section can have its own aspect ratio independent of the other. So now from here, let's call section the settings dot image aspect ratio, and let's save this. And if we go back to the page, as the default is 16:9, it looks like this. But if I go now to the theme editor, refresh this, we are going to see that we now have the aspect ratio setting. And if I set this to 1:1, it is looking like it was looking before. So let's click on save. And let's go back over here and refresh, and we get the 1:1 aspect ratio again. Before closing the video, let's see how to make a few additional modifications to the library. So for this, let's inspect the code, and let's say that we wanted to change how these labels or these badges look like. So over here, let's try to see where this is being set, and it looks like it is in this after element. And we can see from this selector that this one and presumably the other one are targeted like this. So let's copy this selector from here. Let's paste it over here, and let's change a few things. So the background, let's say this is going to be black. The color will be white. Let's say that the padding will be 8 pixels and 12 pixels. Let's say that the border radius is 4 pixels. And let's save this. And we can see over here that we got to modify how both of these looks like. We can do the same for this one over here in the middle. So we just need to find where this is, which in this case is this beer handle span from here. And you can see that This icon in the middle are actually a before and after pseudo element, positioned and styled to look that way. So you can style this to use a different icon. You can maybe inline an SVG by using the background image property, or do whatever else you want because this is just CSS. And lastly, just so the section isn't broken, from the beginning we can do if section.settings.before image is different to blank, only then we are going to display that. And from here, if section.settings.after image is different to blank, let's close the if statement here. And that way, if I refresh this and add the section again by adding one here, mesh comparison, we are going to see that nothing shows, but we don't see that broken label. We could use a default image if we want by doing else over here and maybe using a placeholder or something like that, but that is up to you. Likewise, here and here, I just use this 1000 to keep things simple, but you can use a number that makes more sense to you if you want. And that's it for this video. As you can see, we built this image comparison section and added plenty of settings so merchants can customize it to their liking. If you found this video helpful, remember to like and subscribe for more Shopify related content, and I will see you all in the next one.